Hello, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Jess.
She's the traumatized.
And she's the abandoned. And
Welcome to our podcast, where we talk about true crime, spooky things, and everything in between.
And today we are talking about deadly engineering. Let's go.
Woot.
Woot woot. It's not woot.
I mean,
woot.
that's
This
not
is
a woot
horrible.
woot worthy.
Lots of people have died. We're not
because
wooting.
of stupid people.
We're going to talk about some stupid people today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited. I don't know what you're doing, so I'm really excited to hear
I don't
about
know
it.
what you're doing.
Oh, this is
fun. We're both in the dark here.
But before we get into that, how
Hopefully.
was your week?
We didn't
I
do the
know,
same
right?
thing.
Imagine. Wait,
We
let's not. I'll just start panicking like halfway through
No.
when you say your story.
Mine's
Give me a hint.
Mine's from like the 1800s.
Okay, mine's the early 1900s.
Okay, so
Okay, so we're not in the same area. Cool.
got it.
All right, how was your week?
My week. It's good. I don't know. It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
For us recording this right now. So it's been a day, 2 days.
No, we recorded on
That's
Thursday.
true.
So I mean, how was your weekend?
Think
Solid.
I did a whole lot of nothing.
Isn't that great though?
Well, I
Remember the
edited,
days?
of course. But
Yeah.
yeah. I think I just spent most of the days with Beanie.
Oh, that's great.
So
I was watching one of our old videos. Don't ask me why. But it was crazy because we were talking about, you're like, yeah, friend drama's over this week, but now it's on to family drama. And I'm like, no. And like, but that was only like a couple months ago. And I feel like we both
that's crazy.
grown up.
It's hard. It's hard. It like I kind of forgot
difference.
that we were doing the podcast
During all of that.
during. It feels
Mhm.
like I don't know. We started the podcast after leaving those friendships, but we didn't. We had it the entire time.
But I wonder if it was more like you started to separate yourself from the friendship when we started doing the podcast. So that's why it kind of feels that way.
Maybe.
Because you started distancing yourself then, and then it just became more official afterwards. But yeah, like crazy. And now look at us. Now we have boring weekends.
Oh yeah.
Spend time with our family.
Boring times. Yeah.
Mhm. Love it.
Other than that, it's been storming like crazy. Sunday, the like thunder woke me up because it like shook the house. That's how loud it was.
That's crazy.
And the boys were just like gone. I'm like, hello.
The house is collapsing around us. Why
A
are you that awake?
tornado could be ripping through the house, and both boys would be like out. I'm like,
Sleeping.
hello.
They're done.
But yeah, other than that, boring.
Good.
How was your weekend?
You deserve some boring. So I actually ended up getting sick.
Because you went, yeah.
No.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. So like I ended up sleeping all day Saturday. I lied. I took a bath. I actually took a bath. Like that's how bad I was. And that led into me getting a cyst on my ovary. So that happened too. So literally all weekend, like I made the decision.
Led to
Cyst.
that?
No, it didn't lead to that. It just happened to like right.
Coincide.
So as I started feeling better, I was like,
Okay.
ow, this hurts.
Ow,
Ow,
that's
what's wrong
bad.
with me? Something's wrong. Thought at first it was just really bad gas, and then I like couldn't walk on my left foot,
Ugh.
which is what side it's on, and I'm like, this is just gas. But I made the decision Friday, just kind of like, because I called my aunt and I was like, I'm mentally not okay. I couldn't form words.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and I'm about to put myself not only around 50, 60 family members, but my mom was going to be there too.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't, I knew I wasn't mentally strong enough to like basically like defend myself.
Right. And she probably would have jumped on that opportunity.
Well, she did with Papa Bear. So
Because he was alone.
which is one of the main reasons why I wanted to go. But anyway, but I took care of myself all weekend. I didn't do anything. I literally slept, vitamins, and water.
It's so insane. That
Weekend.
was like, what, 3 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
And you sound
And now
fine.
I'm like completely
if
fine.
I got sick, it takes me like a month to get over a cold, a common
It
cold.
really does though.
It's
Yeah.
bad.
Well, I feel like too, I mean, you know how sick I get. But what's crazy is I really haven't been sick since I've been here. So I find that really interesting. Like I've been like icky, but not like legit.
Yeah. You're also not at a hospital anymore either. Like the places where you work is different. Like when I worked at the
That's true.
Brig, I was sick all the time. And once I stopped working at the Brig and I was working at Michael's, like I found myself like not sick once that year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I like rebounded really fast. Airborne, 100% would recommend Airborne because I took that twice a day. And like my lungs are still a little tight, but I'm feeling so much better. Anyway, other than that, that's good. Very same. Very boring. But I'm definitely feeling much better. Good.
That's good.
Okay. Fun fact of the day.
Fun fact of the day.
Fun fact of the day. Did you know that 63 Earths can fit inside Uranus?
That is interesting.
Isn't it?
We are grown-ups, and that is very interesting. Anywho.
So what are you talking about today?
So I'm going to be talking about I hope I say this right, Ashtabula River Railroad disaster.
I have never heard of this, and I am not doing this, so we are good.
Okay, good. So
the
the Ashtabula River Railroad disaster, also called the Ashtabula Horror or the Ashtabula Train disaster, or the Ashtabula Bridge disaster.
Oh, you know what's funny? I almost did a bridge collapse. First of all, did you hear about the one in Philadelphia that literally just collapsed?
No.
Like 3 days ago?
No.
Hold. Pause. I'm pretty sure it was
Pause.
Philadelphia. Literally one just happened and it made me think of your story. All right. Not in Philadelphia. It was in Yellowstone.
Yellowstone.
Bridge collapse. Freight train sits in Yellowstone River. So it was like
Crazy.
the bridge collapsed while the train was going over top of it.
Wow. What a coinkydink.
Go on.
Funny you say that because we'll be talking about a bridge collapsing while a train goes over it.
Oh my gosh, I should have done it. Well, it's so fresh. It happened like yesterday.
Yeah.
So there probably isn't a lot of like
information on it. Anyways, so our story begins with train number 5 of the Lake Shore and Michigan Southern Railway, better known as the Pacific Express. So the train is called the Pacific Express, not the company. Departing an hour and 8 minutes behind schedule, the Pacific Express was battling a powerful blizzard on its evening run from Buffalo to Cleveland. The westbound train, pulled by 2 engines to blow through the drifting snow, had 11 rail cars carrying about 160 passengers and crew.
Why would they haul them? Why wouldn't they just have one in the front, one in the back, like one pushing, one pulling? Or is that not how it's done?
I don't know. I don't think that's how it's done.
Fair.
Because I think gives it extra power against the snow, I guess. I don't know. I think the first one is mainly to plow the snow off the rails. I don't know.
That makes sense. Okay.
So the cars included 2 baggage cars, 2 day passenger coaches, 2 express coaches, a drawing room car, 3 sleeper cars, and a smoking car. Of course, smokers gotta have their area. Just half an hour earlier, the number 8 passenger train of the LSNMS passed over the Ashtabula River Bridge without incident, heading east.
Ooh, okay.
The bridge over the Ashtabula River was only 1,000 feet from the Ashtabula station, so the train station. So locomotives usually shut off their steam to allow the train to just glide into the station. As the Pacific Express crossed the bridge, it was going about 10 to 15 miles per hour, so not that fast at all. As the 2 engines, named Socrates, is that how you say that? Socrates and Columbia approached the end of the iron bridge about 7:30 p.m. The engineer of the head locomotive heard a loud, sickening crack and felt his engine sliding back.
Oh no.
Realizing the bridge was collapsing beneath him, he opened the throttle to maximum, and the Socrates lurched ahead just as the weight of the 11 cars began to pull on the Columbia behind it. The connection between the 2 locomotives snapped, enabling the first locomotive to make it off the bridge.
Oh, good for you.
The bridge collapsed, taking the rest of the train with it in a rumbling crash that could be heard a half a mile away.
Wow.
Rail cars flipped and tumbled, smashing into a tangled pile of wheels, splintered wood, and twisted steel. So the Rescuers first on the scene included railroad employees, those waiting on platform at the station, and the residents of Ashtabula who lived near the bridge. Frightened shrieks rose above the wreckage. Some fortunate survivors broke out the windows of passenger cars to escape, while others were pinned in the destruction. Several people also brought axes to help free the survivors.
Jeez.
The wooden cars burst into flames when their coal and kerosene-fed heating stoves and oil lamps overturned. High winds caused the flames to spread rapidly until the entire wreck was an inferno.
Jesus. Okay.
One of the most infuriating points, just one, there's many, but one of the most infuriating points in this story is that the response by the Ashtabula Fire Brigade was minimal, if that. G.W. Knapp, the city's fire chief, was an alcoholic who, even when sober, was slow to make decisions and easily confused. I don't think he's easily confused. I think he's a dickhead. But the Lake Erie Hose Company's hand and steam pumped horse-drawn fire engines arrived first, but Knapp never gave any orders to fight the flames.
Why? What?
He told a bystander that there was no use in fighting the fire.
Stop.
Even though it was plain that some survivors were still trapped in the wreck.
So he just like said F them and gave up?
Didn't even give up. He didn't even try. To give up, you'd have to try.
That's true. Jeez.
At least one member of the town begged Knapp to put water on the flames, but he refused.
Oh my gosh.
Instead, the townspeople secured buckets and, with the help of some members of the fire brigade, thank God, tried to put out the blaze with just buckets.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so hold on. So in that picture, the river is frozen over. Right?
Yeah, it's like in the middle of a blizzard.
Right. So I'm wondering, well, no,
but
never mind, your blizzard. I was going to say, wouldn't you be able to access the water under it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it probably, when the train fell, it probably broke some of the water. And there's a fire, so it's probably melting the water.
Right, kind of a little hot there. Okay.
Yeah. The darkness and blinding snow made it difficult for surviving passengers to orient themselves and get out of the wreck. A number of passengers drowned in the river, while others escaped the blaze only to die of smoke inhalation.
Now, that wasn't something, smoke inhalation wasn't something that like was a thing.
Yeah, that was like, kind of like known. Yeah.
Like people would just die from it because they wouldn't check for the damage inside. Yeah.
Did I say what year this happened?
You said the 1800s, so I'm assuming it was.
No, I didn't put the exact year though. I think it's 1877 is where we're at.
Okay, I trust you.
I hope I trust myself.
Sounds good.
Okay, so where were we? Okay, so the injured and dying were either carried up the steep steps or hauled up the incline on sleds or sleighs pulled up by rope. There was no hospital in Ashtabula, so the injured were first taken to the railroad engine house, then to the filthy and rundown Eagle Hotel adjacent to the station, or to the nearby Ashtabula House Hotel. And as these places filled, residents opened up their homes to survivors. So pretty much trying to get them anywhere and everywhere. By midnight, all the survivors had reached safety. The 10 doctors in the village attended to the wounded. About 1 a.m., a special train arrived from Cleveland carrying railroad officials and 5 more surgeons. So
they sent back up.
Yeah.
Wild. Now, like, you might talk about this, and if you could cut this out, but like, okay, what about the other side of the railroad? Like, they obviously like have some sort of like fencing or something they could put up to tell people to slow down because that there is no bridge anymore.
Well, I think the news got out that there's no bridge there at the moment.
Okay. Like, that would be my concern is like another train just comes right behind it.
It came from Cleveland, so it came from the other side. Like, this train was going to Cleveland, and this train.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Unfortunately, along with all the good Samaritans, there were also looters who moved among the dead and wounded, stealing money and valuables.
Rude. That's like a special kind of evil person to like take stuff off of people who passed away. I don't know.
Yeah. A crowd even looted the train the next morning until the mayor had to post a guard at the site. Like, have some fucking decency.
Jeez.
Money and valuables worth about $1,500, which in today's money would be around $41,000, were recovered, but most of the stolen money and goods were never recovered. So,
wow, humanity is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, can you just imagine getting like this heirloom and then like looking up its history and then realizing, shit, my great grandfather stole this from a train victim?
Yeah, who died. Great.
Crazy.
Thanks, Grandpa.
Anyways, so the estimates of death range from 92 to 97, of which 48 victims were unrecognizable. Some 64 passengers and crew were injured. A burial service for the unidentified dead was held at Ashtabula's Chestnut Grove Cemetery on January 19th, 1877. So yeah, this happened in December.
Okay. 76.
December 29th, 76.
Okay.
A mile-long procession conveyed the dead to the cemetery. The railroad purchased a burial lot in which 18 coffins containing the remains of an estimated 22 people were placed. And you're wondering why that math is a little off, is because there were bits and pieces. So they really didn't know which bits and pieces belong to which.
Oh, yeah. I was super wondering, and I'm really glad you stopped to explain that.
You're welcome. One awesome thing about this is a hero in this disaster was Charles B. Lee, the nation's first black telegraph operator, who stayed at his post in the Ashtabula Railroad Depot for over 50 hours without a break, sending out news of the disasters, appealing for aid, and handling inquiries from anxious families.
Let's go.
Right?
We love heroes.
And so like that's how like people knew that bridge was no longer there.
Right. Okay. No, that's fair. This guy. Okay.
So the investigations. There were several investigations following the disaster. The first one we're going to talk about is the investigation by the coroner's jury of 6 men from the town that was conveyed by the Justice of the Peace, Edward W. Richards, on December 31st. So the jury took testimony from 20 railroad officials and employees, 9 members of the Ashtabula Fire Department, 10 residents of Ashtabula, 6 passengers, and 8 civil engineers and bridge builders.
Okay.
And the coroner's jury submitted its report on March 8th, 1877. So the coroner's jury blamed the collapse of the Ashtabula River Bridge, the deaths by fire, on 5 factors. 1. The bridge was poorly designed. An all-iron howe truss was unsuitable for such a long bridge. So normally, I think howe truss bridges are like the beams are wooden and then the connectors are iron.
That makes more sense because like
correctly.
I feel like wood has a little more give to it. So you, especially if it's longer, you want it to have a little give.
And would last longer in the cold.
That's very true too. Yeah, metal gets brittle in the cold. Very true.
So this whole like bridge was made from iron, all of it. So some of the members of the cords and braces were not designed to be of sufficient strength and were poorly placed. The lateral cross bracing was so under-designed as to be of little value. So basically they said this didn't do anything. And then the angle blocks had too few and poorly designed lugs, which did not keep the braces and counter braces from slipping out of place. So basically the bolts were not good enough.
Great. So literally every single part of this bridge was not good.
Yes.
Good to know. Okay.
So the design, that's just the design. The bridge was poorly constructed on top of the design.
Of course it was. Why wouldn't it be?
So each member of the bridge acted independently instead of being positively connected to its neighbors. So think of it as like sections instead of like them connecting to each other. They're all like working independently on their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
great. No. Some of the vertical post braces and cross braces were put in the wrong places.
Okay.
The construction of the yokes used to bind the braces and counter braces was poor, and shims or washers. Everybody knows what a washer is, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
It fills space between bolts and whatever they are.
Holes.
Yeah. So shims were used to compensate for cord members that were too short. So
okay.
yeah, and then the modifications made to the bridge before its completion used thick members where thin ones were required, and thin ones where thick ones should have been required.
Why? What? Why? But why? What?
Honestly, I don't think anyone knew what they were doing on this project at any point.
Let's just build a bridge that is going to be used multiple times a day by very heavy trains.
Mm-hmm.
And half-ass it. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Number 3, railroad bridge inspectors did not perform their jobs adequately.
Not laugh. I'm uncomfortable.
Inspectors should have noted the severe deficiencies in the bridge's design and construction.
What were they looking at?
And obviously they did not. They also should have observed problems with members becoming loose over time. Which
gracious.
No. So number 4 has to deal with the train. The train failed to use self-extinguishing heating stoves as required by state law passed on May 4th, 1869. So I mean, it still has to do with the train company, but basically they hadn't updated their heating system, and that's why the fire started.
That's why the fire started after it had already crashed.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not blaming the bridge collapse on the train. We're blaming the fire.
No. Yeah, the fire.
Okay.
Which, by the way, the train and the bridge were owned by the same company. Like the company.
I mean, that makes sense. That checks out.
Number 5. The fire was worsened by the failure of those on the scene to attempt to douse the flames. Shocking.
Me standing there watching it and be like, nah, we're good.
I don't get it. Like, why? I don't. Anyways,
I mean, it gives all the way back to our throwback to the chaotic chat of the bystander effect.
Yeah, but like when it's your job to do something and you don't
somebody else
do
will take
that
care of it.
something, what are you doing?
It's too far gone. Literally nothing. It's so garbage. Okay.
So the Lake Erie hose companies, hand pump, whatever, first on the scene, they could have saved lives. They were there. The Neptune hose company's steam pump and the Protection Fire company's hand pump were hauled more than a mile away through snowdrifts, arrived too late. So they came from a mile away to try and save people when there's bitches right here not doing it. Anyways.
Wow.
I don't want to get heated.
I think you're already there. But rightfully so. Rightfully so. There are many lives lost because people are stupid. So you have every right to get ragey.
Yeah. Insane. So, according to the coroner's jury, they held Amasa Stone, who was the designer of the bridge. They held him personally responsible for the bridge's poor design and the railroad company for the lax inspection of the bridge and the failure to use the self-extinguishing heating apparatuses.
Okay.
So, and then G.W. Knapp was held personally responsible for failing to fight the fire in a timely fashion. I don't know what happened.
Failing to fight the fire, failing to do anything. Sorry.
He was held responsible. I don't know what that means. They didn't go into detail if that meant jail time or, death penalty, but I doubt that. He probably went don't do that again.
Yeah. He probably got fined. They like to do that to rich people. I'll fine you. Really? Oh, no. All my money.
Oh no, like 10% of my money, or not even, probably like 0.5%. Not even.
Yeah. Oh, no. 1% of my money is gone. No.
Oh no. So I'll never do that bad thing again.
I'm never going to recover.
Oh, we're petty. I love it. Anyways, so the next investigation was done by the Legislative Joint Committee. So on January 1st, 1877, the Ohio General Assembly adopted a joint resolution appointing a committee to investigate the causes of the Ashtabula River Bridge collapse and to make recommendations to the legislature.
Okay, so for the second one, they were just trying to figure out how to make it not happen again.
Yeah, so this is like the government basically. So the committee consisted of 5 members of the Ohio House of Representatives and 3 members of the Ohio Senate.
Okay.
The joint committee hired 3 civil engineers to examine the wreckage and report to the committee regarding the bridge's design and performance. The committee also received written reports and personal testimony from civil engineers and railroad officials and employees. One of these officials being Charles Collins, chief engineer for the LS and MS Railroad, which we're going to go into a little side note about Collins.
Ooh.
Collins, whose responsibilities included inspecting the bridge and ensuring its safety, had been at the site of the accident and reportedly broke down and wept uncontrollably.
Well, good. Is that?
I'm glad he felt guilty.
Yeah.
After his testimony, he was found dead at his home in Cleveland from a gunshot wound to the head, pistol by his side. What are we thinking?
He could have been horribly by grief, but it also could have been we have like a true crime coming up next week. You know, it could have been very easily staged because people would believe that he would kill himself. So,
having tendered his resignation to the railroad's board of directors the previous Monday and had been refused, Collins was believed to have committed suicide out of grief and feeling partly responsible for the tragic accident.
Why did they refuse his resignation? That's strange.
However, 2 official autopsies, both conducted in 1878, concluded that Collins had been murdered. For unknown reasons, law enforcement officials did not release these reports at the time. The reports were rediscovered in 2001.
That's like, wow.
Right?
Well, okay, so hear me out. Multiple thoughts here. So
you holding a crystal?
You're stressing me out. Okay. Multiple thoughts here. So I love it's my unicorn one. It's so pretty.
So pretty.
And it grounds me so well. Okay. So first of all, you were like, for reasons unknown, and I'm like, why? He was responsible for this. That's why somebody would murder him, but that's not where you're going with that. So it's fine. But they probably didn't want to cause like a manhunt, because it's like, or cause like a lynching type thing where, okay, well, we killed one of them. Why don't we kill all of them? You know what I mean? Everyone who's responsible. Like, it might have caused.
Yeah. So
like
there's speculations that he was killed by a family member that lost someone in the train wreck. It's also speculated that it may or may not have been someone within the company to get him to zip his lips.
But he was trying to resign and they wouldn't let him. That is very suspicious.
Did they have like non-disclosure agreements back then? They probably didn't. And so like if he got resigned, then he probably could have talked about all the issues at the company or something, and they just didn't want that.
So the company like maybe. Like,
yeah. I don't know. Speculation.
Hearsay.
Allegedly. So the Legislative Joint Committee issued its report on January 30th, 1877. The committee blamed the collapse of the bridge on 3 factors. The bridge design was flawed.
Yep.
Nothing in the design prevented the lateral buckling of the braces or the upper cord.
Okay.
The bridge was apparently designed for a non-moving live load, and little evidence existed to show that it was designed to accommodate jarring, oscillation, vibration, or like the force of the wind. So basically, it wasn't made to be flexible with all the conditions you need on a bridge.
Yeah, on a windy bridge, on a cold windy bridge. Yes.
So, number 2, there were significant errors in construction. No. The members making up the braces were not connected to act in unison. Like I was saying, they're like separate. And the sway braces were too small to prevent sway. Again, like I said, wasn't made to move. The third thing is the defects in design and construction could have been identified by careful inspection at the time.
Right.
Again, but the railroad's inspectors did not identify these problems. Many braces and counter braces had fallen out of position before the bridge collapsed, something inspectors either did not notice or the railroad did not repair. So, a third investigation.
Like, that's my question. Why do they need so many? Just like, okay, so that one was to prevent future. So what's this one for?
Which, by the way, I didn't put this in because, like I said, there's a lot of information. There were like, so many investigations. But the legislation went back with their findings and they put out a bill to be like, hey, this is how we should make things safer. And the legislation did nothing with it. So,
of course they did. No, because why would they?
Why would they?
Why would they?
So this one was a third investigation conducted independently by civil engineer Charles McDonald, who was likely commissioned to study the bridge's collapse by the American Society of Civil Engineers. So the first one was the coroner's jury, which is coroner's jury is basically for the deaths. Like, why did this happen? Then you've got the legislative, and now we've got the civil engineer, the Society of Civil Engineers, who are
so
more likely to
designers.
like, how do we change the industry as a whole?
Gotcha. Okay. That sounds very familiar, and I wonder if we've heard of that before, because that McDonald and the civil engineers just sounds very familiar.
Yeah, probably. We've done a few engineering stuff at this point. So McDonald blamed 3 factors for the bridge's failures: improper inspection by railroad officials. He noted, however, the LS and MS were not alone in infrequent inspection by largely untrained men. So basically he was saying they didn't have the right people to inspect, but that's kind of across the whole industry. We don't have enough trained men to inspect.
Great. Okay.
An inadequate knowledge of the strength of iron. The whole industry suffered from a lack of this knowledge, he wrote. Because I'm assuming this is at the beginning of the whole industrial revolution, or the iron coming in and stuff like that. So they kind of like don't understand what can go wrong with iron at this point.
Right, like the properties of it and stuff like that. That makes sense. Okay.
And number 3 is the failure of a miscast lug.
Just one?
Just one.
Okay.
So McDonald believed the bridge collapsed due to a flaw in the southernmost lug at the top of the first full angle block from the west end.
Imagine an entire bridge fails because of one little piece. That's insane.
He noted that the lugs atop the angle blocks on the bridge had for some reason been shaved down to 1.6875 inches from 2 inches. This significantly weakened the ability of the lugs to transmit stress from the cord to the braces and the counter braces. So one little lug caused
insane
this. So I'm gonna talk about the railroad real quick. The company, whatever the fuck.
Whoever they are.
LS and MS president Amasa Stone and the bridge's designer, we talked about him earlier, categorically denied that there were any design or construction flaws.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong. Ignore the train in the frozen river that's on fire. There's nothing wrong.
Just wait. He initially blamed the bridge's collapse on the derailment of one of the 2 locomotives pulling the train, which does not compute.
No.
Or by a loose rail, which caused the train's derailment. Dude, they did not derail. They went down.
Yeah. I mean,
they didn't go anywhere but
stayed
down.
on. The one stayed on. The rest of them are in the river.
How's the first one gonna be fine and then the second one derail somehow? Even though they're
and then
connected?
end up in
No.
Okay.
No. Anywho. Suspiciously, or not suspiciously, then in 1883, Stone committed suicide.
Another suicide.
Crazy, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh, the first one wasn't a suicide. We know that.
Right. Suicide. Gotcha.
Okay, but get this. Okay.
I'm ready.
The railroad also hypothesized that a tornado may have hit the bridge, causing it to become loose from its abundance, whatever. A tornado in the middle of a blizzard
hit the bridge, and then whoop, it gone. Didn't hit any, just the bridge. I mean,
I'm just like confused. Do they mean like a tornado in the middle of the blizzard, or do they mean like a tornado when it was summertime and then they just didn't fix it? Either way, it's your fault.
Either way, it's not a good excuse. Doesn't look good on you. Like, I don't know.
Is this the tornado Jess lost a couple weeks ago? It just showed up out of nowhere?
I still haven't found it. You know, it's somewhere out there. Maybe.
Just a tornado. Okay.
What an excuse. What an excuse.
Although Ellis and MS refused to accept responsibility for the disaster, it paid out more than $500,000, or in today's money, $13.7 million.
I'm guessing to the families.
To the victims and the families to quiet legal claims. So, I also have a modern engineering analysis of the disaster.
Ooh, okay.
So, this is a Sweden name. Please forgive me. I think the BJORN is
Bjorn?
Bjorn? I don't think Bjorn. I don't. Yeah, Bjorn. I think it's Bjorn. You don't pronounce the J. Akesson, a civil engineer at Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden, has identified 3 proximate causes of the bridge collapse. 1, the failure of an angle block lug on the west end of the bridge due to fatigue. So
we've heard that. Okay.
Yeah. The angle blocks were made of cast iron, which Akesson says was appropriate for the angle blocks if they were in compression. However, the critical issue, Akesson says, is that the broken lug on the southern angle block atop the joint between the second and third panel had a void. The void itself weakened the integrity of the block.
That makes sense. Okay.
So the second thing was thrust stress from improperly fitting cords and diagonals.
Okay.
So poor construction of the bridge's diagonals worsened the stresses placed on the lugs on the angle blocks. The Ashtabula Bridge diagonals, however, were only loosely fitted to the angle blocks. Again, a lot of this works with everything compressed together. It's putting pressure on each parts.
Right.
This bridge was lacking all of that everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it was not. It wasn't giving where it needed to give, and it wasn't compressing where it needed to compress. Like it just wasn't doing anything.
Yeah. So the pre-stressing brought the diagonals into a relatively close fit with the angle blocks, but did not put the diagonals in compression. The problem was worsened because shims were used to fill the small space.
Oh yeah.
The space between the diagonal bearings and the angle blocks. The diagonals were not carrying the load they were intended to carry, so extra stress was placed on the cords. Unequal loading of the angle blocks worsened the metal fatigue. So basically everything was making the metal fatigue at the same time.
And it wasn't even good metal to put there.
Yeah.
Iron was, yeah. So, yep. Okay.
The construction of the upper cord of the bridge was also poor. This cord consisted of 5 I-beams running in parallel. Having all 5 members end at panel joints actually weakened the bridge. As with the connection between the diagonals and the angle blocks, it was critical that there be no space between the I-beams and the lugs on top of the angle block, because these lugs transferred axle forces to the next member. So yeah,
all good things.
All good things. Construction workers used the metal shims to fill space between the lug and cord members until it was a tight fit achieved. However, friction alone rather than the active connection such as a yoke or bolt kept the shims in place. So it's not like they soldered them in place or like bolted them in place. They just expected them to stay there.
Why would they do that? That would make sense.
But over the years, it seems some shims had come loose or fallen off. I wonder why.
Might it be a lack of compression?
Might be. This allowed members of the cord to thrust suddenly against the lugs, inducing even more metal fatigue. There was also an indication in the construction record that several cord members were misaligned. Even if their bearings had been flat, they would not have met the lugs completely. This too would have created uneven loading and worsening metal fatigue.
Yeah, that metal's real tired. That's all I'm saying.
And the third thing is the low temperatures, which caused the cast iron angle blocks to become brittle. So the role which low temperatures played in creating the worsening metal fatigue was also poorly understood in the 19th century. The temperature at the time of the accident was 16 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, we all know, below freezing. That's -9 degrees Celsius for anyone outside of the US. The low temperatures on the night of the accident increased the brittleness of the cast iron, and existing fracture worsened in the cold and likely caused the lugs failure.
Yep.
He also has an issue though with the inspection. So the modern analysis of the bridge collapse conclude that the railway had inadequately inspected and maintained the bridge. However, he says that better inspection of the bridge may not have prevented a collapse.
Okay.
Because an inverted howe truss, which is what this was, puts the superstructure below the track where it is difficult to see and inspect.
Interesting.
And the angle blocks were hidden by surrounding I-beams. So basically everything's inside, and it would have been extremely hard,
really hard
to look at and identify errors and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's the modern. I think I went through that pretty. Last thing, the legacy. Concerns that the city lacked medical care for the victims of the bridge disaster, citizens of Ashtabula began raising money to build a hospital in their own town.
Oh, love that.
An emergency care clinic opened in 1882, followed by Ashtabula General Hospital on July 1st, 1904.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay.
As part of the Interstate Commerce Act, a federal system was set up in 1887 to formally investigate fatal railroad accidents. So there's that. Initially, the mass grave of unidentified remains in Chestnut Grove Cemetery was unmarked. Local citizens began an effort to erect a monument on the site in 1892, and the Ashtabula Bridge Disaster Monument was dedicated on May 30th, 1895, before a crowd of 5,000 people. That's like one thing about this story. The people in this town fucking cared.
Yeah, they did.
So much.
They really did. More than anybody else. Like they just,
The names of 25 individuals known to have died in the fire but whose remains cannot be found are listed on the plaque on the memorial space. And then this, the site of the Ashtabula train disaster of 1876 now features a new rail bridge, and I don't know what it's used for. I think it's in use, but for the life of me, I could not figure out what it's used for. So
it's just like a symbol. Like
all it said was features new rail bridge. So
okay, well,
there it is.
There it is.
And that's my story. Hopefully the engineering stuff made sense. I tried to make sense of it.
It did.
Basically, bad design, bad construction.
Yeah, that
Fall
happens.
down.
Yeah.
Fuck that fire chief, dude.
Dude. A lot of people in that story.
A lot of people. Like,
okay.
goddamn.
Fail.
Oh boy.
Mine's
Here
fun.
we go.
So I'm talking about the St. Francis Dam, 1928. Have you heard of this?
I think it's been on the list because I looked through lists of disaster or whatever engineering.
It was.
Yeah, okay.
It is.
It's a good thing I didn't do it.
Yeah, no, when you said that, I was like, oh crap, because this is definitely the St. Francis Dam disaster was a catastrophic dam failure in California on March 12th, 1928, and is known as one of the worst civil engineering failures in the American history.
Dang you. We picked doozies today.
You said
I
damn.
know, I did.
Damn.
I didn't mean to do that. I just did it.
That was great.
Damn.
I know that's what we're talking about. I don't like myself sometimes. Okay. So this is not funny. This is not funny.
It's scary. It's very scary.
It's very scary. Serious.
Dams breaking. I said damn. Oh, damn.
I thought you meant damn. Okay. The ensuing flood killed hundreds and swept away thousands of acres of fertile land. Located approximately 40 miles northwest of Los Angeles, California, The St. Francis Dam was a curved concrete gravity dam constructed between 1924 and 1926 in order to provide a storage reservoir for the Los Angeles aqueduct system. So it was going to be getting some water to Los Angeles.
Nice.
It was only the second concrete dam of 9 dams built by the Los Angeles Bureau of Waterworks and Supply starting in 1921.
They needed 9 dams. That's a
It's
lot of
people out there.
dams.
It's a lot of water.
That's a lot of
Lot
water.
A lot of water. What is wrong with us? This is why we can't record after work. It's just silly. Okay. While the dam's upstream face exhibited a nearly vertical profile, the downstream side was equipped with a stair-step design that resulted in base and crest thickness of 165 feet and 16 feet, respectively. The top, it was only 16 feet wide.
Okay.
So the main structure reached a height of 205 feet and spanned 700 feet along its curvilinear crest.
Okay.
The design and construction of the St. Francis Dam was executed solely by the Los Angeles Bureau of Waterworks and Supply under the supervision of the organization's chief engineer, William Mulholland. We will not like that name by the end of the story.
Okay.
The 1928 failure of dam was attributed to a series of human errors and poor engineering judgment. Weird. So William Mulholland was a self-taught engineer. That's always good. Who had achieved national recognition and admiration between 1906 and 1913 when he orchestrated the design and construction of the Los Angeles Owens River Aqueduct, the longest water conveyance system at the time.
Okay. But let's be honest, aqueducts are just like tubes of water, right? To go places.
In addition, during his time as a supervising engineer, Mulholland had overseen the completion of numerous embankment dams.
Can we just imagine there was a time where you could just be like, yeah, I'm a doctor and do it. Yeah, I'm an engineer and do it.
Just build a dam. Mulholland's experience in concrete dam design, however, was found lacking.
Gee, I wonder why.
Prior to the design and construction of the St. Francis Dam, he had only participated in the design of one other concrete gravity dam.
Okay.
The Mulholland Dam was named in his honor, is a curved concrete gravity dam of similar height constructed between 1923 and 1925. Although his experience resided primarily in the design of embankment dams, Mulholland proposed that the concrete gravity dam would be a proper structure for the canyon terrain across which St. Francis would be built. Multiple instances of poor judgment by Mulholland and several of his subordinates significantly contributed to the cause of the failure of the dam. So the construction.
Yeah.
Construction of the St. Francis Dam began on March 9th, 1925. It was completed a year later, almost to the day. The colossal concrete structure was 205 feet high, 1,225 feet long at its crest, and 150 feet long at its base, 160 feet thick at stream level. Plans to the dam were based upon those previously prepared by Mulholland for the Mulholland Dam, with little regard for site-specific investigations. When these plans were finalized, and after construction had already began, the height of the dam was raised by 10 feet on 2 separate occasions in order to provide additional reservoir storage needed to sustain the growing community and the surrounding dam.
So they just threw extra weight on top without compensating
20 feet.
anywhere else.
Though these modifications increased the dam's height by 20 feet, no changes were made to its base width or anywhere else.
Love that.
As a result, the intended safety margin for the structural stability decreased significantly. Mulholland's team recognized this effect. However, the engineering analysis, acquiring of additional materials, and extended construction time to properly mitigate the height increase were considered to be too costly to the project and to those stakeholders who were financially invested in the completion and operation of the dam. So they knew it. They knew.
And they're just like, nah.
They were like, no, we're good.
That's the base, like down there?
Yes.
That tiny section?
Yes. That's the thing, is he wanted to build this like curved, even though they didn't take into consideration the terrain that they were building it in.
Why wouldn't they like get rid of this mountain, like dig it out?
That's a great question. It took too much time.
This is
So-
the weirdest looking dam I've ever seen in my life. This is not. What is that?
So construction, I don't know. Well, construction began in 1925. It finished 1926. The construction began March 9th of 1925, ended in March.
Also, that
in
concerns me
1926.
that it only took them a year to throw together. I hate that.
The St. Francis Dam failed at midnight on March 12th, 1928. 1928, 2 years after the construction was done. It failed in March. Isn't that crazy?
2 years. That's all it lasted.
Mhm.
Wow.
Almost to the day. Fun fact. Only 12 hours after its last inspection by Muhammad himself, the dam failed.
That's so. What is it called? What is it called when you're personally involved?
It's a complete lack of. Oh God, there's a word.
What is it called?
I
It's
don't
like
know.
if you're doing a police investigation, you can't do it on a family member because it's
Conflict of interest?
Yeah. Isn't that a conflict of interest? Like you should
Him
not
doing his own
be-
inspection?
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll
Okay.
get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
For a considerable period leading up to the last inspection, leaking cracks were observed within the main dam and at its abutments, which were dismissed as conditions typical of the dam type.
No.
When investigating the cause of the failure, it was clear that the proposed St. Francis Dam design was not reviewed by any independent party. It was also clear that it was designed to prevent small foundation stresses only and not accommodate full uplift. Again, that's kind of like talk, but I don't know if you know anything about California, but earthquakes happen a lot.
Oh yeah, that's true. A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
So it's estimated that the design exhibited a safety factor less than 1, while Muhammad claimed it was designed using a safety factor of 4. I'm not gonna go into that, but just to let you know, like you need to have a 4 or 5.
Okay. And they had a
Yeah,
1.
less than 1.
Oh,
less than 1.
1.
Less than 1. Yeah.
Sounds good. Solid. It's gonna last
Solid.
a lifetime.
Didn't. 2 years.
Just 2.
And you gotta realize completion of the dam was in 2 years. It has to then fill up.
Yeah.
So I don't even think I might talk about. I don't even think it got all the way full. Like the reservoir. Like I don't think it held.
I mean,
Anyway.
good thing that it kind of didn't get all the way full. What more damage it could have done.
Although opinions vary, more recent and more thorough investigations assign the ultimate failure mode to the weakening of the left abutment foundation rock due to the saturated condition created by the reservoir, which essentially reactivated a large landslide. So on the left side, you could definitely tell while looking at it, it's a lot more hilly. Like you said, there's like a mountain. And so once it started getting water saturated, it basically caused like a collapse.
They
caused a
didn't
landslide.
fully build. They built into a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And the mountain.
That combined with a destabilizing uplift force in the main dam caused failure to initiate at the dam's left end. In quick succession, as catastrophic failure was occurring at the left end, the maximum height section tilted and rotated, which destabilized the right end of the main dam, causing catastrophic failure at the right end as well. The dam collapsed in March of 1928 at 11:57 p.m., sending
Not in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night? Yeah. 12 billion gallons of water rushing down the Santa Clara River Valley.
Yikes.
There were no surviving eyewitnesses to the failure, but one man on the road about half a mile away from the dam recalls feeling a strange shaking of the ground and the sound of crashing falling blocks. That shaking he felt was no earthquake, but rather the tumbling of incredibly heavy pieces of concrete that were falling off the dam.
Were there like workstations at the dam or something or no?
Mm-hmm.
There were. So there were probably people there at the time.
The first community struck after the dam's demise was Weskistak, which is said to have been swept clean as a pool table. Minutes later, a power company in the river valley was washed away, leaving 84 people dead.
It's gone.
It's gone. There was literally nothing. The reactors, the only thing left in the power plant was the actual pumps. Everything there was a building.
The whole building's gone.
Is gone.
Cheebirds.
Portions of the town of Peru, Fillmore, Santa Paula, and Satacoy were completely demolished. Just past the Ventura County line along Santa Clara River was a railroad siding called Kemp. So there were a group of 150 workers for the Edison Company that were fast asleep in a temp camp while they were building a transmission line. Night watchman Ed Locke watched in horror as a huge flood of water approached the camp. Imagine. This is literally from like a nightmare.
Right.
He ran through the camp, waking up as many people as possible. Locke, a true hero of the disaster, perished that night along with 84 of the workers as the flood hit the geological outcropping called Blue Cut, which created a whirlpool effect that uprooted the tents.
Yikes.
Most of the survivors had their tents zipped up, which allowed them to float on the whirlpool. There were other heroes. We both had heroes here. There were other heroes to recognize at Santa Paula. Luis Gipp, a night telephone operator at Santa Paula, received a call from the Pacific long-distance telephone operator at 1:30 a.m., warning of the flood headed their way. Ignoring the peril to her own life, she stayed at her post, notifying California Highway Patrolman Thornton Edwards and calling residents in low-lying areas of Santa Paula to warn them about the impending flood. Edwards would become known as the Paul Revere of the St. Francis flood, as he raced wildly from door to door, warning residents of Santa Paula. While Edwards spread the alarm through Santa Paula, Deputy Sheriff Eddie Herney raced up the Santa Clara River Valley toward the flood with his siren blaring to warn residents. He made it as far as Fillmore, where he met the floodwaters and had to stop. There is a monument to their deeds in downtown Santa Paula, a sculpture called The Watchers that depicts 2 motorcycle policemen who rode through the town spreading the word. A total of nearly 500 people were killed in the flood.
Wow.
Towns of Castic Junction, Fillmore, Bardsdale, and Peru were flooded, and more than 1,000 houses were damaged or destroyed. So the official death toll was estimated around 450, but the number killed was so much higher. Many victims' bodies were never recovered, and the numerous transient farm workers and illegal immigrants who perished in the flood were never accounted for in these official statistics. Okay, so the center section of the dam was nicknamed a tombstone. Now, I was nicknamed this because the tombstone remains standing, the rest broken into numerous smaller and several large pieces, most of which were washed downstream. So it was literally the center of the dam that held strong for some reason.
Wow. Well, because it was at the base. That's the base. If there was the rest of the base, this would not have happened. Like,
you know what? You make valid points here. So the largest of the pieces that were washed down weighed 10,000 tons, and that was found 3/4 of a mile down from where the dam site was. So it rushed that big of a piece of concrete.
Crazy.
So those generators that we saw earlier were the only thing left of power plant number 2 that was found in the rubble. That was 5 miles north of Newhall. View of the main highway bridge, 1 1/2 miles from Castic. Only the supports survived the floodwaters flowing from the St. Francis Dam. The Twisted Company auto wreckage marks the site of the Southern California Edison Kemp camp, which was destroyed. In the aftermath of the failure, Mulholland took full responsibility for the accident during a hearing.
Oh, did he? I wouldn't think he would.
Don't blame anyone else. You know you can just fasten it on me. If there was a human error, I was the human, which is great. I appreciate that.
I don't know. Yeah, I got weird vibes from that statement alone.
He said he only envied those who were killed.
What? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What do you mean?
He only envied those who were killed.
Ew.
So the last picture I'm going to share is the map of the flood. You can see the dam is on your right side.
Yeah.
The white is the initial flood path where the water went.
Okay.
And you could kind of see the places that we were talking about, like Peru, Fillmore, Santa Paula. He ended his career by stepping down as head of the City of Los Angeles Bureau of Waterworks and Supply shortly after the failure. That being said, the disaster was primarily caused by the ancient landslide material on which the eastern abutment of the dam was built, which people do speculate and say it would have been impossible for geologists in 1920 to detect.
What do you mean?
Meaning that at the time, two of the world's leading geologists, John Branner of Stanford University and Carl Grunsky, found no fault within the San Francisco rock. So they did bring people out to study the rock. They didn't find anything. Issue being that area was known for landslides.
So
therefore, an inquest jury determined the responsibility for the disaster lay with the governmental organizations which oversaw the dam's construction and the dam's designer and engineer, Mulholland, but cleared Mulholland of any charges, since neither he nor anyone else at the time could have known the instability of the rock formations on which the dam was built.
False. I am not an engineer, not even close to it. I barely understood what I read today. But I'm telling you that that dam would have failed because they didn't build it properly on a base.
Right.
They built it on a mountain.
On a mountain, which that mountain was prone to landslides. So had they done it properly. Yeah.
I mean, California is known for their landslides. They have landslides all the time, as much as their
All the
earthquakes. Like, how do you
All the
not
time.
know? That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I hate that.
After all the dust settled, they're estimating over 400 to 450 people perished as the flooding waters raced through the San Francisco and Santa Clara River valleys and continued on its 54-mile course to the ocean. Due to its tremendous loss of life and property damage, estimated to be about $7 million at the time.
Yikes.
Some consider the failure of St. Francis Dam to be the worst civil engineering disaster of the 20th century. To end on not such a fun fact, a few months after the dam's collapse, 18-year-old Lucy Parker fell to his death from the standing section after his friend, in playing a joke, threw a dead rattlesnake at him while he was standing on that middle section.
How did they get up there?
They climbed.
They climbed
There's
up
so many people.
that.
There's so many people that climbed up like the middle part of it.
Bro, fire your friend. Who throws a swear to God, if you ever throw a dead rattle anything at me.
Here's the thing. I might, but not while you're climbing like 100-foot structure. Like, that's not the best time to prank somebody.
Yikes.
So that's the story
That's awful.
of the St. Francis Dam disaster.
Just to be able to say you're an engineer and design something and then like,
Well, I do wonder too if like because he was so like, nope, it's all on me. I'm the person. Blame me. I wonder if the jury went easy on him because he did accept responsibility for it.
but did he
I don't
or
know.
did he just like
Just say it.
say it? I got really icky vibes from that statement.
From that statement. Yeah, that's true.
Ugh.
Okay, that's it for this episode.
Crazy.
It was super cheerful. If you enjoy the podcast, don't forget to follow us. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Hi. Like and subscribe.
Yes. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with our username at TTATA podcast. And in the bio of all of our social medias, our link tree, which has our email and a bunch of other fun stuff. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, topic ideas, we would love to hear from you.
Let us know. Thanks for listening, guys. Next week, we're going to be doing true crime. I'm so
I
excited.
have a good one.
I have a really good one, too. And with that, we're going to leave you with this inspirational quote.
Take chances, make mistakes. That's how you grow. Pain nourishes your courage. You have to fail in order to practice being brave. By Mary Tyler Moore. But also, like, don't be an engineer if you don't have any
Maybe
experience.
go to school for it.
Yeah, maybe go to school.
There's schooling for that now.
Don't say
should
you're an
definitely do that.
engineer and then build a
No.
dam expecting it to hold for a lifetime.
Or, build a bridge where there's like gaps where there shouldn't be gaps and like
Yeah.
be like, yeah, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be cool. Yeah. The long pieces are supposed to go with the short pieces, but you know what? It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It'll work out. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.